Hey gang, it's Tuesday, it's March the 26th, and we got some good aerobic capacity for you today. In fact, maybe you're gonna think about this one differently. Maybe you're gonna think about this one like open workout 24.2, because it feels a lot like that. It is that kind of a pacer, this one, with two similar movements. We got deadlifts in it, we also have the row. But obviously some of the format changes quite a bit. But I think if you're thinking along the lines of 24.2, then you're thinking correctly. Because this workout is 5,000 meters per time. But because you have other things to do, similar to 24.2, where you still had deadlifts and double unders to do, you know this can't be your fastest row. Every time you're on the rower, it can't be pedal to the metal. It has to be something paced enough so that when it's time to get off the rower and do your interruption work, you have the capacity to quickly do that. So let's get into the specifics. This is another interruption workout. It is easier, I mean, this is subjective, but I think it is easier than last week's 60 toes to bar for time with the burpee interruption, because this time the interruption is supposed to take much less time than the main course, which is the chipping away at the 5,000 meters for rowing. So what are the interruptions today? The very first interruption is at 3, 2, 1, go, at clock being 0, you're gonna do 10 deadlifts and 6 burpee over rowers. And our expectation of you is that this takes less than a minute. Not only less than a minute, but ideally less than 45 seconds. It was taking me about between 30 and 35 seconds each time. So what does that tell you? The deadlift needs to be an unbroken deadlift. It has to be. So we need to choose a loading where that is gonna be possible. We're saying no heavier than 155 for men, 105 for the ladies. That'll give you some guide. Just know, even for me, the 155 it got to be a point where I was still going fast, but it took from my row, because it's the only time that we're gonna interrupt you up with a pull. You do a pull from the ground and then get back on the rower and do a horizontal pull, but those are conflicting movements. So you'll do that at 0, and then you'll get on your row and accumulate as much towards the 5,000 as possible. And then at 3 minutes, you're gonna get off the rower again and go do 12 wall balls. All right, so then you get back on your rower after your 12 wall balls. You accumulate towards your 5,000 again, and then at 6 minutes, you get off the rower and you do the deadlift, burpee over rower thing again. Back and forth we go every 3 minutes. So it is a bit of it probably looks harder to explain on paper, and it's probably more for a coach to have to think about than it is for you as an athlete to have to think about. What you know is that every 3 minutes you're gonna have to go do something. And after the first time you do it, you go deadlift, wall ball, back to deadlift, then you're kind of like in the zone, you get it. And at least that's how it worked for me. It was not hard to remember what I needed to do next. Now let's talk about some specifics, maybe even some strategy. One thing I wanna point out right off the bat is we have 11 different rowers. As far as I know, they all work. But I don't know what the screen setting is on all 11 of them. In other words, how much time does it allow you to be away from the rower and continue to accumulate your row meters? I know my rower at home doesn't give me very much time at all. It resets way before I want it to. And I think there's a setting for that, but I don't know what it is. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because you need to always be aware of how many meters you are at in case the rower shuts off, or maybe you know the setting to change it. Now, aside from that, I will tell you the same thing that I would tell you for any interruption type of workout, and that is you need to always be at the interruption movement right at the time it's about to start. They need to go quickly, so that's part of why you need to sort of save something on the row. All right, so be at the deadlift right on the top of the minute when it's time to go and get ready to do it. Don't waste any time. And then same thing with the wall balls. Now, again, I said that the deadlifts need to be unbroken. Wall balls absolutely must be unbroken too, so make sure you choose a loading and you're still getting all your good depth and the like. Now, maybe it helps to see it written out. This is what it looks like. You need to be able to just understand that for each interruption, on my right is a deadlift and the the burpee over rower. It's just beginning at beginning at 0, and then every 6 minutes after that. And then with the 12 wall balls, beginning at 3, and then every 6 minutes after that. So again, probably more difficult for a coach to remember than it is for you, I think. But in any case, the only other thing I can say for modification purposes is, like, if you don't think you're going to be able to get that work done in under a minute for sure, but maybe under 45 seconds, then what can we modify? Obviously the loading of the ball and the deadlift we already talked about, but another thing you can modify is if the reason the burpees are taking too long is because of the jump over the rower, then don't do the jump over the rower, just do regular burpees. Outside of that, I could see us having to bring the volume of the interruption movements down too, but that would be the last resort. So maybe it's less than 6 burpees, maybe instead of 12 wall balls, it's 10, but I don't want it to come to that. I'd rather you guys do the work. Now, outside of that, the strategy for me was I was at about 220 pace on the row, which is a little slow for me, but I knew it was something that could help me to sustain. And then I started to empty the tank at 3,500 meters. So, you know, my final time was 28:43, which allows us to cap this pretty nicely today. All right, guys, enjoy.